But welcome to the first Friday for the 567 for the month of January 2021. We're very, very glad to have you. This show is titled New Dogma, and this is a solo exhibit by Kevin Sean Lewis. Kevin moved into Warner Robins with his wife and his family just about 2 years ago, so he is relatively new to the area. Kevin has been featured all across the globe. He has painted all across the world. Kevin was born in Ohio and has subsequently moved across the globe, living for a large chunk of time in Turkey, as well as Germany. He also spent a ton of time in Morocco. And then also stateside, has lived out in Washington State and Colorado. Again, he is an Ohio native, and now they live in central Georgia. So Kevin, he has collected a lot of ideas and used those in his paintings throughout his many decades of painting experience. Kevin is an incredibly talented live painter. He's really quick working when he needs to be. He tends to work in acrylics when he's doing quick paintings. And Kevin also is an exquisite oil painter. We'll show you guys a number of both oil and acrylic paintings that he's got. But I wanted to delve into the title of the show, New Dogma. New is not spelt N-E-W here, it is spelt N-U. And this is utilizing an ancient Egyptian understanding of the female goddess who created the primordial ooze, who started the creation of the globe. And dogma is a guiding set of principles, something that's kind of established over generations and becomes a guiding principle, and is almost becomes a determined truth for a subset or a certain culture. So you put the two together, and this is Kevin's notion of spirituality, especially as a black male, in a globalized context, taking the beginnings of spirituality and breaking these down into his own kind of symbolic planes. So I want to read you guys really quickly just a little bit about what Kevin said. And he says that he goes on trains of thought that he likes to take to completion. And he likes to create a cohesive series that explains kind of the ideas that he has. Not every piece is able to capture the full set of nuanced ideas that Kevin is trying to portray. And so he likes to delve into larger form series. So this show is New Dogma, which features a large smattering of his NU series, new series, and then also has a side series attached to it, and is used to pair both the works that he's created in the past with kind of the direction that he's taking his work in now. And the reason I'm standing over here in front of this piece is Kevin says the new series is a new telling of ancient stories that we know as religion, but it's actually older than all of us. It's something that came to us in life and that we kind of pull our own sense of meaning from. And so this piece here is called Hezekiah's Wheel. And this is kind of the piece that connects both his older body of work and his newer body of work together. We'll come back to this piece towards the middle of the show, but I did want to start off with this piece to show how this is connecting all the cultures, all the symbols, all the iconography, and it's pairing it together into what Kevin would determine is his own spirituality and his own spiritual nature. So this piece kind of defines the entirety of what this show is trying to get across and to offer. So I did want to start over there and give you guys kind of a glimpse as to the previous pieces that he's done and the newest series that he's done and why we're pairing these all together. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and jump back on down to the beginning of the gallery and start this exhibit. All right, we're going to come all the way back to square one here. And this is a tribute piece to the musician and rapper Q-Tip. Kevin actually did this piece up in DC in Maryland, and he did this as a live painting. And if that doesn't just show you how incredible Kevin is right off the bat, he knocked this piece out in a single day. This is an acrylic piece. He said that he started it earlier in the morning before the event kicked off, and then worked on it straight through the event itself. But I love how he's able to get this these kind of three scenes in one here into the portrait of Q-Tip. He's able to bury this lightning scene into the body of it to give it this kind of storm going on, while up here at the top he's able to kind of crown Q-Tip with this halo of a clock, this almost electrically driven, gleaming clock. And so as you can see, Kevin has really, really tight brushwork. He is a master at doing very intricate gradients, and is also a master at pairing colors. Here, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more for you guys so you can really see some of the intricate details in here. And this kind of adding in intricate detail to an overall composition, you will see is very telling of Kevin. As he's been painting recently and we've been talking, he's kind of moving into this new idea of using symbols and kind of buried figures within things of cloth, within stonework, within kind of all sorts of realistic representations in the newer pieces that he's doing. And then he wants to kind of throw in these symbols and ideas deep within the piece itself. So we're excited to see where he takes those as he moves forward over the rest of this year and continues to develop the new series itself. So this is a bit of an older piece here that we're starting you guys off with, but we're going to go from this piece into a piece that is actually just a year older, and this is called Nina's Blues. And a lot of the work in the show has a very powerful statement and sentiment to it. Some of the work you guys might find a little disturbing, and I would argue that that is the reason that Kevin did it. He likes to talk about civil rights. He likes to talk about spirituality. He likes to talk about the Black plight of Black people in America and across the globe, and kind of their coming of age story that he throws into all of his work. So this is, of course, Nina Simone, and it's just a beautiful rendering of Nina Simone's portrait. Of course, with this heavy, hot, kind of 2 o'clock in the afternoon day sun behind her, gleaming on this tree in the background that is, of course, bearing its strange fruit, if you will. That is, it is called Nina's Blues, but the whole premise behind this piece was Nina's song Strange Fruit. I think the subtlety in the ways that Kevin captured this piece and put the tree behind Nina is very telling. Also, the way that she's wearing her flower necklace here and is unclothed. Let me zoom out a little bit for you guys here so you can see the overall piece once again. And just beautifully done. I love the fact that Nina's rendered in this grayscale. You'll see a lot of that in Kevin's work. Kevin likes to work in this grayscale for the figures and then likes to add in pops of color on the areas that are designed to pull your focus to tell a different part of the tale. And Kevin does predominantly work with portraiture. And as you'll see, almost every single one of his pieces is portraiture or kind of a sculptural portraiture of somebody. All right, so we are going to now move forward into one of Kevin's newer pieces. This is a part of the new series, and this is called New Offering. This is the piece that we featured on the postcard for this show. Personally, this is one of my absolute favorite pieces, not only in this show, but possibly of the entire last year. I think this is just an incredible piece. So let me zoom out as much as I can so that you guys can get the full view of this. In fact, let me pull back just a touch here. So this piece is based off of the ancient Egyptian creation story, again, kind of delving into the ideas of new. But as you can see here in this piece, the boy is actually submerged in this primordial water. So he is literally kind of being crafted and created out of this pool of almost nothingness, of beginning, of creation. And as you move up above his head, not only is he holding the globe in his hand, but you've got the cosmos up above him, just reaching out into infinity. The water kind of just ebbs into the cosmos. There is no real separation between what is Earth and what is space. And of course, then you've got this beautiful black boy coming up and out of the water, holding the globe. And I think Kevin was brilliant in how he represented Earth here. This is the construction of Earth. This is the telling story of Earth's construction. And I love the fact that he used this kind of Islamic lack of representation when it comes to the globe. It's just these patterns. And that kind of speaks towards the Muslim idea of not featuring a image of God, right? God is in nature. God is kind of the natural chaotic and non-chaotic patterns of the world. So the fact that he uses that structure to build what is the earthly globe in this boy's hands. And of course, the boy's got his eyes shut. He's incredibly peaceful. He's just, got this serene quality to him. This beautiful textured skin, just smooth and supple. I mean, just looks like he was born from the clay of the earth, which totally goes to kind of that beginning crafting story of humanity. And one thing that you'll notice here in Kevin's work is that Kevin likes to utilize the triangle. The triangle is Kevin's symbol. So basically, when you see the triangle in a piece, it is Kevin putting a part of himself into this narrative, into this story, into this construction of his own mythology, right? Kevin wants to explore the commonalities across the globe in religion, in spirituality, in growth, in cultural contact, and talk about in his images, in a visual way. He wants to discuss those notions of creativity and creation for himself. These are his works and this is his narrative. So I will just linger here for one extra second because I just cannot think hardly of a more powerful piece than this. This is the piece that we featured on our postcard. And of course, while you guys are taking a second to take one final look at this piece, I did want to remind everybody that the gallery is open Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We just ask that you wear a mask when coming in, but we would love to have you guys come on down and check out this work. It is wonderful online, but the camera just does not do the coloring, the brush strokes, the size of each piece justice. And so I would highly encourage you guys to come down and check this out. All right, so we're going to move from a really powerful piece to another powerful piece, but for a far different reason. This is probably almost the most out of place piece in the entire show, not because of the subject matter, but mostly because of Kevin's mindset behind it. Kevin told me that really the idea of this piece was just that he wanted to paint something beautiful, and something beautiful did he paint. It's just a gorgeous rendering of this beautiful black female, this almost black goddess, just from the neck up, surrounded in a field of sunflowers on a bright, beautiful afternoon. But this piece shows you again how intricately Kevin is able to render skin tone and to build up these portraitures. I mean, they are all so lifelike. From a distance, they read outstandingly realistic. And then the closer you get, you see some of his brush strokes, you see some of his brush work. You can really see that here on the lips of this piece. It's actually relatively loose. He is very, very confident in the areas that he does blend, as you can see kind of in the jawline, into the neck versus the chin, versus where he lets the paint sit heavy on the canvas, like you see in the kind of reflection of the lip. And so, yep, there's not too much of a story behind this one, mostly just a beautiful piece. All right, so we will shift on now into something that is a bit more of a heavy subject matter. And this is a portrait representation of Sandra Bland. This piece is called Sandra Bland, the Martyr. And I'm sure many of you guys remember the news stories and everything of Sandra Bland's death, but she was basically stopped at a traffic stop and taken into prison and, or excuse me, jail, and about 3 days later she was found hung. And so there is a very different narrative between what the autopsy report says and what we understood of Sandra Bland as the person that she was, that makes this a controversial narrative. And so here, this is Sandra Bland, the Martyr. This is Kevin taking Sandra Bland and putting her back into a proper historical context where she lost her life meaninglessly. And you can see back here in the background, he's got the dagger through the heart. Kevin is a master of putting in small symbols to really amplify the power of a piece. Again, a black and white portraiture. He captures so much of their soul in these portraits, so much in their eyes. Every piece's eyes scream something different to me. I'm sure you will see the same as we continue on down this wall. So this is Sandra Bland, the Martyr, and I have her turned in into this central piece. But before we jump into the central piece, I'm actually going to jump down to Saint Angela. And so this is kind of the counterpart pairing to the Sandra Bland piece. And this is kind of the counterpart to the Sandra Bland piece in a much more positive context. This is titled Saint Angela, but of course this is Angela Davis, who is a 1960s political rights activist. She was kind of a Marxist communist who fought for the bettering of the black people's plight in America. And so she is, as far as I'm aware, still alive, and actually is a poet and a professor out in California. So obviously able to take that message from the 1950s and 60s of her civil rights activism and continue to maneuver that forward into today's newest generation. But again, I love the way that Kevin depicted her. She's really got this saint-like quality to her, something about just the head and the neck, both for Sandra and for Angela, is very interesting. And of course, back here in the background, you can see that instead of the heart and dagger, which is kind of the message of sorrow, this is the Black Power Pride fist raised up high in the air, to kind of showcase her ideologies and her commitment to civil rights activism over the course of these last 70 years almost, which is absolutely incredible. And so I've got these two on the outside of this middle piece, both looking in, because this middle piece is called Veiled Disciple. And I just felt like it was awfully telling to kind of have those two women looking in on this powerful woman. Who is, again, as you can see the triangle there right in the middle of the forehead, a bit of an amalgamation of Kevin's and his spiritual journey. And so this is Veiled Disciple. So it is no specific disciple, but you do have up in the upper left-hand corner, you've got the moon. And of course, in the upper right-hand corner, you've got the flying crane. And the crane is a symbol of longevity and of happiness and prosperity and continuation. And of course, I take the moon as something that is cyclical. It shows time. It shows the passing of time itself. And then, of course, she is veiled. So she is this powerful black woman who is no single black woman. She is all black women. And she flows through time, she is forever. And I did think that's why it was very important to get Sandra Bland and Angela Davis on both sides of her looking in, because that's kind of, the idea of their names living on is this continuation of building up Black people specifically in America and across the globe, and having a true sense of history. So let me come on in a little bit more so that you guys can see some of the detail in this piece. Because this, as you can tell, is an incredibly large canvas. This is actually the largest canvas of Kevin's that we've got in here right now. And I just love Kevin's work with drapery too. Not only is he astounding at putting the humanistic qualities into his portraiture, but the way that he is able to focus his talents on his draperies, you'll see not just in this piece, but in numerous others, the way he captures clothing is so realistic and just subtle and beautiful. I apologize for the light glare up here. Like I was saying, this is another reason why you should definitely come on down Monday through Friday, 11 to 4, and come take a look at these works in person. All right, so a couple of incredibly powerful pieces right here in the middle of this wall. But for the sake of time, we are going to continue moving down. So we're going to move back down past St. Angela, and we're going to come on down here to a piece that Kevin has titled Miriam. And Miriam is a brilliant title for this because this is kind of a take on, in the new series style, as is the Veiled Disciple, another part of the new series itself. Miriam is part of the new series, and this is a play on Mary Magdalene. I think this piece is very interesting. I would like to talk to Kevin a little bit more about this piece, actually. We haven't discussed this one incredibly much, but I find it striking that it has a almost Edvard Munch scream quality to it. The way that the face is placed in the canvas and the background colors going from that very heavy red orange into that like blistered blue purple sky. It's an incredibly tumultuous piece, I feel like, even though this is designed to kind of give the Mary Magdalene story over to a kind of a Black context, which I think is incredibly interesting. And I like too how he played around with the color of her clothing, because of course Mary historically would be portrayed in a ultramarine blue, but Kevin decided to go with this like kind of seafoam green instead, and I think partly to counter that to contrast that orange red in the sky in the back. But I just think it's a very interesting color to choose for the robes here, and definitely seems to be less Western European and maybe a little more African, although I know a lot of times, the prints and that kind of stuff play across different African cultures. So again, I'd be interested to hear Kevin's take a little bit more on this piece. But as you can see, he's got the triangle imprinted in the forehead, again, kind of showing that this is an amalgamation of Kevin's spirituality with what he understands of religion, and what he desires from religion, or spiritualness. All right, so we're going to continue on into a piece called New Amexim Stellae. And this is one of Kevin's newest pieces. Kevin just finished creating this piece about 2 weeks ago. This piece is actually already sold, so I'm sorry to say for all of you who are dying to jump on it, it has already moved into a private collection. But as you can see, this piece here is kind of the the real definite shift into his new series idea. And you can see, it's got some serious similarities to Hezekiah's wheel over here, but Kevin is kind of taking that and putting it into a greater, more mythological context of his own spirituality. This one is amazing. I think it is just an outstanding piece. So let me pull out a little bit and give you guys just the absolute full thing, and that is basically it right there. So check that out, and then I will zoom in so that you guys can start to see all of the incredibly intricate detail that Kevin has painted in. And I find this almost, from a distance, looks like a Illustrator graphic rendering from a computer. But this is not. This is, if I remember correctly, an oil paint. Oh, no, it's actually an acrylic paint, excuse me. So it's astounding at how he's able to build up those acrylic layers to give this such kind of a bas-relief depth to it. This piece feels like you could touch it and run your fingers along the stonework. And of course, right here in the center, Kevin's triangle with another triangle buried into the forehead of the skull right beneath. So he's still got the triangle smack dab in the middle of the forehead, which again, is Kevin's brilliance here. He is fantastic. And so you've got the triangle in the middle of the forehead here for the life, and you've got the triangle in the middle of the forehead down here for the death. And this is inspired off of like the Mesoamerican, Mayan, Aztec culture. So again, kind of taking different world religions and pairing them together into his own idea of what spiritual nature is and what his spiritual nature is, and how cultures cross over and can't help but influence one another as they go. And so you can see he's got so much of what would be kind of considered, Mayan hieroglyphic carvings. But within that, he's also got these like much more modern symbols. So, I see computer chips in there. You see speakers. Like these scream to me as speaker systems coming out over here on the sides of the piece. So just a really interesting play of lots of different notions of mythology. And just amazingly rendered. What a fantastic composition it is. All right, so then we will head on over to Hezekiah's wheel here, which I know we started on, but I would like to take a little time since this is kind of the linchpin piece for the entirety of the show. Let's take a little time to just focus on all of the different symbols that Kevin's gotten here. And so this piece is actually, this was custom created as an album cover, but this is kind of what brought Kevin into the new Dogma series idea, was working on this piece for this musician. And so this piece is designed for a 4-part album series, which is why it's split up straight through the middle into your yellow, red, blue, and green. So it's quadranted. But then, of course, this is also a piece that is designed to show a link between all of the different cultures of the world, both modern and ancient, both Western and Asian and African and South American, everything. And so you can see in here, starting over on the left in the hand, you've got notions of the spaceship, which is a modern construct that, we are all very still interested in. We see sightings of, we have conspiracy theories over. But of course, if you go into, some ancient Asian text, they talk about space battles. They talk about these flying chariots racing through the sky. And so lots of people have taken this as a historical context of UFOs, right? So again, kind of pulling the old and the new together into what is kind of human, and to Kevin, what is, the basis of spiritual, what brings people together. Why do we congregate around these notions across the globe? So of course, then you've got the flower, you've got the kind of peace signs in the hand, the okay signs, with the ancient Egyptian hand signs. You've got a microphone as you move over to the right, and then a dinosaur, again, kind of showcasing the idea of what once was, what once ruled the earth, what once was here, versus even into today to the kind of toy notions of buying dinosaurs for kids at the store, of, having them as these playthings that are still these cultural objects. There's so much symbolism in here that I could hardly even get into it all. We would really need Kevin to probably spend an entire hour just talking about why he chose everything that he did for this piece. But as you can see, you've got everything from kind of the psychedelic side down here on the left to the consumer-based side over on the right. You've got symbols of love. You've got the all-seeing eye in the palms. You've got these kind of Sumerian kings over on the side, and these Egyptian gods over on the left side. It is just an incredible piece. And then, of course, the deeper that you get into it, the more you start to realize that there's all of these just beautiful mandalas hidden here in the back to kind of create this bas-relief style stonework feeling to it. This piece is the most visually textured piece I have seen in an incredibly long time. And when I first saw it, I thought it was a print that he had done through Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop or something, but no, this is all hand painted, and this is oil on panel board, which is why it doesn't have any of that kind of canvas-like texture. It's got a very different texture on the substrate. So, an absolutely outstanding piece, an incredibly intricate piece, something highly original, very unique to this individual musician as well. I am very interested to finally hear the release of these albums to kind of see if what Kevin did put in the cover image of the piece is actually represented within the music that comes out of it itself. So stay tuned for that, and we'll let you know when we know if the album's out. Okay, so now we're going to shift over into a series of 3 that is kind of right off of the new series. So Kevin said this is almost the new series, but it's something a little bit different, and I want to show you first all 3 of these pieces together. So from left to right, we've got ADWO, Delivering Peace. The centerpiece is EPA, Search for Justice. And the right piece is ASAWAA, A Little Tenderness. And so this series really kind of discusses ideas of peace, justice, and understanding. So let's come on over here to the left side first, and we'll jump on in with ADWO, Delivering Peace. So Kevin says that this deals with the Andrinka symbol of peace, which is the moth up above his head here. And of course, stuck dead in the center of the piece is the triangle, is Kevin's triangle. It is the entirety of the background is the triangle, pulling in the symbol of peace into this upset man. I mean, this is not a man's face who is at peace. This is somebody who is seeking peace, I would say. This is, and now, of course, this does say delivering peace. So, there are very different notions about how to interpret this piece of artwork itself. Delivering peace can be both a mental and a physical action. So this could be kind of a release, or it could be kind of an anger. Both, I think, would be appropriate. But again, the power that Kevin is able to get into these portraitures, the way that the eyes scream, the way that he forms the paint around the face and is able to do these soft and hard blends is just exquisite. And there is the symbol of peace. And peace can also be death. Peace, peace can be the eternal afterlife. Peace can be the release. So I think this title versus what this artwork actually depicts are designed to be a little bit to play against each other a little bit. All right, so now let's shift over into EPA, Searching for Justice. And now this is an acrylic piece. This is acrylic on canvas. In fact, all three of these pieces are acrylic on canvas. This is a portrait of an unknown, may not be the right word. I am certain that he is known, but a less highly publicized Black Panther. And so this is a historical representation of a person based off of a photograph. I will say I find that Kevin's genius never fails to inspire me here, because even though he utilizes diamonds as the background, you still have lots of triangular shapes within there. I realized in all three of these pieces, you've got the triangle on the left, the diamonds, and then you'll see the X's. But in each of those shapes, you will see the triangle is represented. I just think it's brilliant. The detail is outstanding, especially considering this is in acrylic, which of course dries much faster than oil. So you have to blend a lot quicker and kind of build up your layers a lot more heavily. I think the way that he was able to get that like stubble beard into the face itself while not distracting from the facial shape, from the pits of the actual face, you know, from the way that the flesh overlays the skull. Kevin just has a real knack for getting the human in his portraiture, and that is hard. I have seen lots of portraiture. I've seen lots of amazing portraiture. I think portraiture is meant to be interpreted, is designed to be a little different. We want to kind of, you know, inflate certain things about people, and we want to diminish certain aspects of people. But I think Kevin really captures people for the people that they are, with the blemishes and all. So I think that this is just a awesome piece. Of course, to everybody, I would like to say that all of these works are for sale, except for a few that came from a private collection. We do have price lists available here, so whether you want to come down and check it out if you're interested in a piece, or if you're interested online, we're happy to send the price list over to you so that you guys can check it out and maybe take one of these exquisite paintings home for yourself. All right, and now we're going to shift on over to ASAWAA, A Little Tenderness. And this is a tough piece. I find this piece haunting at the same time as I find it empowering. But Kevin said that this piece is designed to kind of talk about the issues of young Black males in America and struggling with what is understood as masculinity, and trying to grow up being a masculine male. I put that in air quotes there. When you have feelings, when you have emotions, when you want to break down, when, you know, you're feeling the weight and burden of society, you know, being placed on you at such a young age, and having to kind of take that in. And so let me zoom in a little bit more so you guys can really see. But of course, this boy has tears streaming down his face. And he's also got blood streaming down his hand as he holds his exposed heart. And the way that Kevin's put this heart in there, it's got that very Christ-like feeling of the sacrificial or sacred heart. You know, it's bare, it's out there for all to see, it's wounded, it's held and caressed by this boy who's trying to kind of find his place and maintain his own composure and his own understanding of himself, while society kind of puts different connotations and expectations on him. And, you know, again, I think it's just awesome how Kevin did this in a black and white rendering, but decided to pop out the heart in this true to color form, as well as to pop out just the little bit of yellow in the boy's shorts, just to kind of really ground the body in front of this very still and flat background. And of course, it's got these kind of barren X's in the background. And so, you know, I mean, I think it's very interesting because you can see a triangle in each of the top sides and bottoms of every one of the X's. So again, kind of putting his signature in there without ever really needing to put his signature in there. Yeah, this is a really tough piece. I think it's a beautiful piece. I think it's a hard piece to look at. But, you know, that's the thing with art is it's not all designed to just be beautiful. It's designed to tell a story, and it's designed to tell specifically the artist's story. And that's where, again, Kevin is just an amazing creative, because he's really able to take his fears, his hopes, his desires. I mean, you know, again, he has a long time wife. I think they've been married for over 20 years, and he's got 2 wonderful kids, and you know, he's a family man, so he's been across the globe and has watched different cultures interact in different ways, and he's interacted in different ways with those cultures. So yeah, though this is a tough piece, I think he says a lot in a really subtle way. And it allows you to kind of build your own story out of it. But I do think once you see the title and you understand his meaning behind it, you know, this is called Finding a Little Tenderness. You know, the boy is tender. He has tears. He has emotion. He does feel. So it's just kind of reframing this notion of, what do we expect out of our kids? What do we expect in society? Do we really need to force connotations on people? And when we do, look at how it hurts them, look at how it makes it harder to live and work and be the person that you are within those constraints. Yeah, and the friendships help too, absolutely. Yeah, no, Kevin, I can tell, is a very, very lucky and blessed man, and I know he feels the same way. All right, guys, so we're going to shift over to something that is, we've got a couple of really tough pieces over here, so let's just delve on in and take a look. So this is called King and Sankofa. I did not know until I saw the title that this symbol up above Martin Luther King's head is the Sankofa. And this is a Ghanan symbol, so, you know, an African Ghanan symbol, and it is a bird that is reaching back to touch behind itself on its back to collect the egg that is sitting there behind it. And the idea behind this symbol is kind of understanding the past and relating that past knowledge to present situations and contexts. And so that symbol is what ties this piece together here. This is, of course, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I want to show you guys the brilliance of Kevin. You can see here on Martin Luther King's shirt that Kevin has built in the crown of the king into the shirt. I think that is a beautiful, subtle, tiny little detail that when I caught, I just really tickled me a whole lot. It's just his brilliance there. And of course, you've got Dr. Martin Luther King, you know, standing in front of what is a Black Lives Matter protest within the background. In King's left hand, he kind of holds the dove of peace, which of course has been shot through the breast and is now wrapped in police caution tape. And over in his right hand, he's got an iPhone, an Apple iPhone, which is actively disseminating a signal from the phone, right? And both of these are raised up almost evenly and equally. And so Kevin really, what his main focus on this piece was learning from the past, right? Dr. Martin Luther King being the quintessential civil rights activist that, of course, we all think of and respect today, and putting him in front of what is our modern injustice fight, our modern civil rights fight, which is Black Lives Matter. You can see back here, one of the signs says, "I can't breathe." So you know this is a modern fight in the background with a historical context in the foreground. And of course, the symbol tells you the whole story. It's that you have to look back to the past to understand the present and to continue to fight for your future. All right, we're gonna pick it up here because I still have a couple of pieces and I gotta wrap this up somewhere right around 4, and I don't really want to rush through, so I might go a couple of minutes over if I have to. All right, so we're moving over to the Ahmed Arbery's America, and this is an acrylic on canvas. And of course, I think this one hits home for many of us here in Georgia specifically. Of course, it would hit home for anybody nationally and probably globally. But, you know, of course, this is a really close case to us and something that is still, hardly even a year old at this point. So I think this is Kevin trying to, you know, understand the situation and put his creative mind in front of his upsettedness. And so, of course, this is, you know, one of the images of Ahmed that was portrayed in the media. And, you know, there was a big issue over the last couple of years and still is about, you know, police shootings of especially black people and the choice of imagery that the media chooses to portray for that individual. Instead of going after high school graduation photos, they'll go after a, you know, college party photograph. So, you know, it changes the context in which the public sees the person and sees the case. So of course, you know, here Ahmed is in his suit, you know, he is looking, you know, good as gold. He is the person that he was. And then behind him is, of course, this American flag bleeding into him, bleeding into his shoulders, and all the stars you can see are actual depictions of KKK Klansmen in their hooded masks. It's a tough piece. All right, that's all I can really say about that one. So let me shift on over to something that is far more uplifting and kind of back into the spiritual nature of Kevin. And this is probably one of the oldest pieces that we have of Kevin's work in this gallery exhibit. And this is called Mammy Wata. And so, you know, kind of discussing Mammy as the mother and Wata as, again, that almost primordial birth area, the water that everything came from. I was in here the other night speaking with my dad as we were just kind of going around looking at all the pieces, and I've seen this piece numerous times, but we really started talking about the octopus and why Kevin put the octopus up above the head, and realizing that there's so much symbolism there to break down. You know, the octopus is such a smart, inquisitive, strong creature. An old creature. It's been around in the oceans for millennia. It is something, you know, that it has lived in the depths for so long. It has this intellect. It has this strength. And of course, this is crowning this beautiful, black, powerful goddess, right? Who also is showing strength and intellect. Her eyes are clear white as if she is almost seeing the universe through them. You know, she's got this pearlescent necklace that kind of pulls everything back into the water, into the ocean, into the original. So, you know, this would be the original mother, the original creator, and Kevin put in this notion of black strength and black intelligence and the ability to overcome and to survive and to thrive in your environment. And this is a large piece. Again, I would highly recommend you guys come down to check out, especially some of the pieces like this. It's a huge composition with this electric blue radiating out from the center of her head of this crowned octopus on this beautiful, powerful woman. Just an outstanding piece. Yeah, I'm sure now you guys can see why I was so excited to bring Kevin in. Kevin's work is just, it needs to be seen. It deserves to be seen. He has just such an amazing mindset, and then, of course, has the talent and techniques to back it up wholeheartedly. All right, so we're going to shift over here. This is one of my other most favorite pieces in the show, and this is called Thoth Nu. So, of course, Thoth is like the Egyptian god, and he was always depicted as an ibis, which is a type of bird. And this piece is so cool because this really shows you the blending of kind of Kevin's, not only the spiritual nature of Kevin, but also the painterly styles of Kevin and like the artistic histories that he draws from. This piece is cloth, and this is what I was talking about before. Look at the cloth and the depiction of this cloth. It's beautiful. You've got this gorgeous green velvet over this orange, I wouldn't say velvet, but it is definitely a heavy, thick orange fabric. And you've got all of these Egyptian symbols mixed in, but the way that this piece is put together is very much like an old master's piece, like a Leonardo da Vinci piece or a Michelangelo piece. You know, it's got that heavy drapery. It's got this very westernized old master's painterly style to it, while it depicts all of these kind of Egyptian, and again, right there is the triangle in the middle of the book. And so, of course, Kevin's amalgamation of what spirituality means and is, and how as the globe became smaller, as people crossed paths, as religions intertwined with each other and changed to become new religions, you know, he's showing the depiction of that change, the way that these things have kind of come together over the last many decades and centuries. You know, of course, you've got this thin halo right around the top, a very kind of Christianized symbol of the ibis bird, something that you would never see in the same type of kind of Christian manuscripts or anything like that. You know, an incredible kind of hieroglyphic depiction of Egyptian symbology, but fleshed out in this old master's painterly style. So, wicked awesome, such a cool piece. If I could take one home, yeah, it would either be the new offering piece of the boy coming out of the new, or this piece. It's just outstanding. So anyone looking to get me a gift, there you go. All right, let us continue on to the Isa of Amarna. And this is a kind of play of a Christ-like depiction with a black male in place of kind of the westernized white Jesus that we've all come to know. This is kind of based off of the Akhenaten story, the pharaoh of Egypt, who used to be known as Amenhotep IV before he was elevated into his godly status as the new pharaoh and became Akhenaten. And so this is kind of taking some of the physical sculptural bust depictions of Akhenaten from Egypt and taking that bust and putting it into a painterly, again, kind of westernized painterly style. This is such a cool piece. It's a really unique piece too, because as you can see, Kevin has two different light sources in it. You've got the light source hitting the face coming from up above, kind of the, you know, God-given light coming in and down. But then, of course, you also see that light up above him reflected in the water, and then that is refracting the light onto the underside of his jawline and on the backside of his hair. So it pulls this whole face up and out of this piece that has this kind of like almost old school ruined city in the back on the right, and then what appears to be almost a more modern or maybe African city over on the left. So again, kind of this pairing together of the old and the new, of different worlds, of different cultures. But let me zoom in here, because the scarring work that he did on the face is outstanding. I mean, look how he scarred in that triangle and all of those individual scars running along the top of the eyebrow and along the cheek line. And it's just so well done. I have never seen somebody who's quite able to really like put all of these nuances into depictions of skin in such a realistic way. Because, I mean, again, as you can see, the more you zoom out, the more those sit. I mean, they feel like this man has had, you know, these cut tattoos burrowed into his skin. Just an absolutely powerful piece and huge. You know, again, I'm sure the computer screen doesn't quite do it justice, but this is a large 30 by 30 piece. All right, we've got two more for you, so we're coming towards the end. So the second to last is called Mary and Isis. And for those of you who know your religion or your mythologies, I'm sure you can kind of right off the bat see these kind of pairings and these comminglings of the two. This is the statue, like the quintessential statue version of the Virgin Mary, holding her arms out, palms out and held wide out to the viewer itself. But then, of course, as you get into it, you start to see all of the kind of Isis, Egyptian, symbolic, kind of mythological folklore added in. So you've got this heavy Egyptian crown. You've got the, let's zoom in here a little bit more. Of course, the triangle burrowed into her face. You've got this Egyptian brooch of the beetle. Of course, Egyptian triangular patternings in her sash that runs around her waist. The all-seeing eyes in both palms of her hand. And of course, Isis, this is something Melissa and I were just talking about, but Isis is the goddess of life, very much like Mary Magdalene is, but she is also the goddess of the moon. And again, to show Kevin's brilliance, what is sitting behind her is not just this glowing heavenly halo, but it actually seems to me to be an eclipsed moon. This is the rays of the sun. The moon is eclipsing the sun, and so you can see the rays of the sun shooting out along the side. So this is thrown into space, and of course it is void black in the center, but as you come down towards the base, you can see all the stars. So she is, you know, a heavenly being coming to you at kind of this turn of the tide, if you will. You know, I mean, a lot of people saw the eclipse as something godly and meaningful. And so to pair these together with, you know, life, rebirth, the ideas and the notion of the moon, but then to actually take the moon and put it in front of the sun to block the sun and give her this power is exquisite. All right, and then last but absolutely not least, this final piece is called The Observer. And this piece has an interesting story to it as well. This piece is kind of Kevin's way of discussing cultural appropriation, if you will, and not in necessarily such a negative context, because I'm sure, as you can see, Kevin likes cultural appropriation when it's fair to suit the individual who is taking it to heart, right? There is meaning behind it. But Kevin said that, you know, all four of these final pieces, including this piece, are part of the new series. And that Kevin writes that this was to attempt to show how people will copy something popular but make it their own. And he's referring to the facial tattoos, right? And that, you know, being these facial tattoos on a white individual kind of showcase both their own culture that they built out of kind of stealing from other cultures throughout history. And, you know, of course, you can see that with the Vikings, who went all over the place. They sailed up and down the coasts. They made it all the way over to the Americas. They made it down to Africa. They were all through the Mediterranean. I mean, they were individuals who truly conquered and who also appropriated different traditions and ideas and means as they went around and conquered. And of course, this goes all the way then through the conquistadors of Spain in the late 14, early 1500s and everything else, as they come over to the Americas and they take on these different practices and they take on these different ideologies, mixing them with their kind of Christian upbringing. And so this piece, The Observer, is designed to be a kind of, historical narrative of people working with and taking from each other's cultures, and I would definitely say most specifically white people in the course of history taking from others' cultures. So a very interesting piece. On the painting side of things, I think it's interesting because most of the portraiture that we see are of Black people, and exquisitely rendered and done, but this also shows you Kevin's mastery of paint and colors, in depicting white skin, which can be sometimes even more of a challenge because of the many different rainbow tones that white skin holds. So you can see he's got this dark red background over on the left side of the piece, giving the left side of the face this kind of reddish glow along with the beard. But then as you move in over to the right side of the face, you've got these green tans coming out. And so it definitely makes it, it shows how he is super easily done on the gradient and how he builds up his layers of each piece to really build up that under skull and then the facial flesh on top. And then, of course, he's able to throw in the tattoos, which are, buried into the skin beautifully. And it is just an amazing piece. All right. And with that actually wraps up our show. This was a good, concise 20-piece show. So thank you guys. Thank you all so much for joining us this Friday afternoon. I appreciate all of you who stuck it out with us with our tour. Please come on down Monday through Friday, 11 to 4. This show will be running all of February, so come check out these works in person. The works are for sale, as I mentioned before. We have price lists available, so either shoot us a line on Facebook or shoot us an email, or come on down. We're happy to try to move some of these pieces to a good, proper home. Thank you guys again. Please do join us again in March when we will be opening up the new exhibit of Youth Art Month, which is the Bibb County Public School show. So thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday. We'll see you then.